It's been a rough year, hasn't it? I mean, we lost a lot of beloved celebrities, there's been riots and scandals and all kinds of stuff going on, and not that I want to compare my problems to other people's clearly much bigger problems, but this show was almost canceled. So, I wanted to do my best to try and end the year on a high note, and since my track record with Christmas specials hasn't been so good, I decided to take a look at a show I used to watch a lot as a kid. A show based on what I would later call my favorite book. The Little Prince was a book written in 1943 by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Gotta love those French names. They sound so daring. The book is about a pilot who crash lands in the desert. While he's repairing his plane, a young boy named the Prince appears and says he's from space and lives on a tiny planet called B612. All day long he tends to his planet's needs and takes care of a very demanding Rose. One day he decides to leave his world and visit other planets, so he tells the pilot about all the things he's seen and the strange people he's met. There's a lot of layers and symbolism in the story. Many people compare it to the likes of Gulliver's Travels. The book's biggest theme is the difference in how things are seen by children compared to adults. Children typically have more imagination and can interpret things in many ways, whereas adults tend to see things as they are. But the book is very open to interpretation. Sadly, Exupéry passed away a year after the book was published, so he never got to see his story become one of the most beloved works of literature in the world. It's been reimagined as plays, radio broadcasts, recorded onto vinyl records, and even celestial bodies have been named after the Prince, his planet, and Exupéry himself. But even if you've never heard of the book, odds are you've seen its influence on pop culture. References have been found everywhere. I've even heard the Mario Galaxy games drew inspiration from The Little Prince. Definitely looks like there was some influence. Today we're going to look at The Adventures of the Little Prince, a TV show that aired in 1978, brought to us by the character designer for Mobile Suit Gundam. It was dubbed into English in 1985 and aired in the US on a little up-and-coming network called Nickelodeon. Just like every other new network, in its early years Nick relied on a lot of foreign programs to fill its airways, like David the Gnome, Mysterious Cities of Gold, and the much forgotten and very bizarre Spartacus and the Sun Beneath the Sea. By the way, if anybody has that series complete in English, please send it to me. But speaking of forgotten, I think a lot of people forgot about this too. Let's take a look. So, as I'm sure you've guessed, the show diverges from the book a little bit. For one, they add a new character, Swifty, the space bird. He acts as the prince's guide, telling him about all the places he can visit, and supposedly he looks after things while the prince is gone.
Who and what are you?
I'm a Swift, a space Swift, but you can call me Swifty, little buddy.
I'm the Little Prince.
By the way, I don't really know what it is, but every time he calls the prince his little buddy, it just makes me happy for some reason.
I never thought of leaving my planet before. But how could I ever get to all those places?
Hey, that's no big deal, little buddy. You can do anything you want if you just put the old bean to work.
Another change was to the Rose that the prince cares for. In the book, she was just a rose that talked to him, but in the show, they gave her a very human-like upper half. I'm not sure if this is cute and whimsical or just creepy. At least they kept her personality.
I'll try to make you happy, but I have an awful lot of things to do here.
Well, if they're more important.
But they're not.
It just seems to me if you're a real prince and you rule this whole world, and I'm the most attractive rose on your planet.
You're the only rose on this planet.
That wasn't very tactful. I hope I didn't make a mistake in coming here.
Although my favorite change is the way he travels. In the book, he just sort of hitches a ride with a flock of birds. But I guess this version of the prince prefers a more direct route because he rides a freaking comet! You wish you were that cool. Good thing he has one of those unbreakable diamond filament comet nets, or this would never work. So in about every episode, he takes a trip to Earth, and after somehow surviving the impact, he usually meets up with some poor misfit trying to find their place in the world, or someone going through some hard times, and the prince selflessly helps them in their time of need. None of this was in the book either, but I guess you can say this is the expanded universe. There are at least 3 episodes that follow events from the book fairly well. One where we see the prince's daily life on his planet, another where he meets an astronomer who's trying to prove the existence of B612, but no one will listen to him because he refuses to wear nice clothes. Yeah, I get what they're trying to prove here, but really? Finally, there's the episode where he meets the pilot stranded in the desert. My favorite part is when the prince unknowingly drinks all of his water.
We have the good, sweet water.
Is it really good?
In a desert, it is worth more than gold.
Well, if it's that good, I'll try it.
Easy. Easy, easy, easy.
It really is good. I'll have to drink more water. I've been giving it to the flowers on my planet.
You give it to flowers? And I give it to funny aliens on this planet.
We're gonna die! Now, at the end of this encounter, the prince just kinda leaves. Spoilers, but in the book, he leaves the planet by getting bit by a snake and dying. Seriously, that's how the book ends. I guess they didn't want to show him being killed in a kid's show, but it would have been nice if they showed some of the other things from the book, like the small planets he visits. They do mention stuff in the book and make a lot of references here and there. At least, I think they're just references. Which brings me to our first problem. The show's original TV run in Japan consisted of 35 episodes, with 4 additional episodes that were apparently lost but later recovered. However, the English dub, as well as many of the other dubs, only got 26 episodes spread over 2 seasons. I would love to see this show uncut, but aside from the original intro on YouTube, I couldn't find any episodes. It's a shame because the English episodes feel stitched together. The editing is just all over the place. A lot of footage gets reused, especially in the episodes where we see him on his planet. Usually it's just to set things up for the episode, but it feels so cheap. They also reuse this scene a lot, with the prince and Swifty sitting under a tree. It's at the beginning of almost every episode, and it implies that this is where they land on Earth. I wouldn't mind so much, but seeing it over and over ruins the illusion, especially when they say where they're supposed to have landed and it doesn't match up geographically.
Is this Earth? Where's the snow?
Well, we landed on a tropical island.
Yeah, it looks so tropical. You can practically smell the coconuts. Sometimes it feels very disjointed as well. In one episode, the prince meets a boy and accidentally breaks his toy horse. Then we see him back on his planet where he feels bad about it, so he heads back to help him fix it. So he goes all the way back home, across the galaxy, to have an introspective moment, and then he just comes back. Yeah, I'm not buying it. In a few episodes, they say he goes to other planets as well, but again, I'm not really sure. The settings certainly look a bit off, but I think they just made it up.
Planet Juno did look very much like planet Earth. The air was clean and good. There were trees and flowers and running water and blue skies overhead. Could there possibly be 2 planets in the vast universe that were exactly the same?
Or perhaps we are being lazy. You decide. I hate being so nitpicky with a children's show, but these problems just keep coming up. Though sometimes it can be hilarious. For example, the show only had a few voice actors, and because the prince travels around to different places, they had to fake accents a lot.
A prince, eh? Well, I'm Harvey, king of the chimney sweeps.
There's a water hole just behind that ridge. I could sure use a drink, partner.
Total, what's to become of the lad? Time he was learning to do a man's work.
Then Papa soon comes home. Papa will catch many fish. Then he sails his boat home, and I will meet him, and we will laugh and dance the folk dancer.
As funny as this is, there was one instance that might be a little racist.
Little boy fella all alone, cold in snow, no home place. Major all alone, warm in big home place. Also all alone, go find boy fella, make warm, happy talk. No more nobody alone, cold.
Why would you do that? However, other times it's really bad. Which brings us to the elephant in the room. Season 2, Episode 6. The prince meets a traveling performer and his bear who are down on their luck. Starts out pretty good. We get to see them spending time together and making the best of their situation. But later on, some wild animals attack them while they're camping, and the bear gets injured defending them. They do their best to take care of him, but unfortunately, he dies. Or does he?
Poor little Yuri is gone.
How? We didn't see it.
I don't know. Somehow, in the night, somebody come along and bury him. Poor Yuri. Better we don't see. Better somebody else do it.
Well, I just don't believe he died. I think this is the grave of somebody else. Not Yuri. There's a village. Maybe Yuri got up during the night and wandered in there for help. Maybe he was delirious, didn't know what he was doing. I'm gonna find Yuri!
What?
The little prince was right. In his feverish condition, Yuri did wander away during the night. Some small boys found him and took him into the village where a doctor is taking care of him, and he will soon be well.
No. No. That is clearly not what happened. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that the bear died. I don't remember seeing this episode when I was a kid, but this infuriated me when I was rewatching this for the review. So much so that I had to stop watching for a while. I just couldn't believe that they hid the fact that someone died with a shoddy, unbelievable edit. And you know what that's like, right?
He's gone into a coma.
It's just like G.I. Joe the movie!
Yuri is well, he'll be back. Yuri is well, he'll be back.
Men, Doc says Duke's gonna be A-OK. Yo, Joe!
It doesn't make sense because previous episodes had characters who were dealing with the loss of a loved one. Not to mention, based on the footage, it seems like this episode ends happily despite the tragedy. As if to say, even after losing someone, you can still come out of it okay. Even more strange is that there's another episode not long after that one that has a similar situation. It's about a girl waiting for her father to come home after a trip to sea, but there's word that his ship has sunk and he hasn't been found. So most of the episode is spent waiting to see if he survived. When it looks like he won't, they find out that he did survive after all. A story about a character who might be dead but survives in the end, done correctly, and based on the footage alone, it does seem to be what actually happened. So why they felt the need to change this one episode, I don't know. It is an unfortunate blemish on an otherwise great show. And I mean that. It's got flaws, but there are so many things this show does right. For instance, the episodes are very slow. Every time the prince meets someone, they spend time together, share stories, play around. I like that. It feels very laid back. It's a nice break, especially considering all the other stuff I had to review this year. Like I said before, the prince spends his time helping the people he comes across. The episodes I seem to like the most usually involve some bratty kid that needs to be set straight. There was one episode where a kid was mad with his dad for not fighting some jerk that tried to pick a fight with him.
I just hate to believe my dad was afraid to fight that bully.
Fighting him wouldn't have proved anything, Jocko.
It would have proved he was brave and strong.
There's a big difference between being brave and being stupid. This is a very good message for kids. That's where the show really shines. And the best part is it does so without being preachy. It'll raise good arguments by showing examples, or it'll try to show things from two opposing sides. In another episode, the prince meets a man who's trying to prove himself by killing a reindeer. Of course, by the end of the episode, he learns that it takes much more than that to be a man. But this episode could have been very one-sided, with an environmental message shoved in your face, but it doesn't do that. Instead, they compromise.
Is that what a man is? Are you only a man if you can kill a beautiful creature that wouldn't harm you? Wouldn't you be a better man, sir, if you helped everything to live? There's lots of room on this big world for all creatures.
We must kill deer to eat and make tents.
But the deer don't ever kill you for food or shelter.
Once again, man is senselessly killing innocent wildlife. Where's my copy of Fern Gully?
We have heard about the buffalo, the tiger, the whale. We do not kill all reindeer, only what we must. We capture many, use them for work, breed them, and raise good, strong new ones. We must protect as well as kill. The reindeer is our whole life.
That sounds reasonable. Some episodes also deal with growing up, usually about some kid obsessed with a toy or an instrument, and the parents insist that they get rid of it and act like an adult. You can't just do that to a kid. They need this kind of thing. It helps their creativity grow, and you know what? The prince says it best.
Make-believe helps you to see things that could be. It's important for children to practice it. Or else where will you get all your wonderful scientists and artists and explorers and inventors for tomorrow?
Damn right! Besides, what kind of jerk parent just takes away their kid's possessions for no reason? What's wrong with you? Now, I bet some people were disappointed that I didn't do a Christmas special this year. But luckily, this show does have a Christmas episode, so let's take a look. It's about a rich old guy who wants to adopt a child, but the kid he wants doesn't want to go with him. He then meets the little prince, who he says he recognizes, and for a moment I really thought they were going to go into backstory for the little prince. I'm so happy they didn't. It turns out the prince looks like his son, who had passed away many years ago, and he wanted to adopt a child to help fill the void in his life. He takes very good care of the prince, but soon comes to realize that no matter what he does, he's still not his son.
I was wrong. I never once asked if you'd care to live with me.
It's all right.
I can see now I must stop trying to find another Billy. I'm so sorry.
So in the end, the old guy instead decides to share his riches with the town's less fortunate. I'd call this a very underrated and overlooked Christmas special. For all of its flaws, The Adventures of the Little Prince is still a very pleasant show. It might be clunky, and there was that one episode, but the good parts are really good. Now, this wouldn't be the only time The Little Prince gets adapted, so here are a few other versions that I've come across. I found this one short cartoon on YouTube. It came from a channel that has a bunch of other animated stories, but I couldn't find much information on them. They're kinda cute, but very cheaply made. They were clearly meant for much younger viewers. I've got this short film made by one of the masters of claymation, Will Vinton. It's kind of an abridged version of the book, but of all the adaptations I've seen, this one seems to be the most faithful. It captures the sadness of the ending very well. Then there's this CGI one I found, where the prince and his sidekick, the fox from the book, travel to other worlds and fight the evil forces of the snake from the book. Also, he's like an action hero now, and... what? If you thought The Adventures of the Little Prince strayed far from the story, this one is way out there. I might as well mention the live-action movie as well. It's actually a musical, but it's got some impressive visuals for its time and stars some great talent like Gene Wilder. The kid playing the Little Prince is a little bland, but it does follow the story very well, so I'd say it's worth checking out. Finally, a trailer recently came out for a new movie adaptation to come out in 2015. It certainly looks impressive, but it seems like it's going to have a wraparound segment that I feel is unnecessary. I'd prefer it if we just got the story from the book, but I'll withhold further judgment until I see it. But as for The Adventures of the Little Prince, because of its problems I can't call it perfect, but it is good. It's a good kids show. It might remind you of days when you were young, just sitting around your room and wondering what else is out in the world. It also teaches kindness and understanding, something I feel is lacking in a lot of other kids shows. I'd say the world can use a lot more visits from the Little Prince. Excuse me? Oh, hi, anime snob. Are you here to yell at me for reviewing an anime without your permission or something? Actually, I wanted to commend you for giving such a glowing review to a classic show. Oh, well, thanks. Yes, it's just a shame it got ruined in the English dub as usual. It's just like what happened to that other anime, Wakfu. We've been over this. Wakfu isn't an anime. It's French, not Japanese. I will decide what is anime and what is not. For example, Dragon Ball Z, no longer an anime. What? Of course it's an anime. It was made by Akira Toriyama. It was published in Shonen Jump, for God's sakes. No, it is far too lowbrow to be associated with anime. You know what? I don't care. Just do whatever you want. Excellent. Oh, by the way, thank you for moving me away from those dreadful cartoons and finally placing me in front of anime such as Hellsing. The manga was better. And this other one. Legend of Crystania? Yes, that's the one. I knew that. Sure you did, pal. Sure you did. Well, that's it for the Cartoon Clip Show for this year. But before I go, one quick announcement. As many of you know, at the beginning of every year I do the Obscurathon, where I talk about a whole bunch of obscure cartoons. But I decided to put that off for this year. And I'm putting it off so I can talk about something else. Something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And, well, let's just say the time is right. Find out what that is after the credits. Happy holidays.